Welcome back to the Guerrilla Gardening Show. My name is Mike. I'm back with Sam. What's happening, Sam?
What's going on, Mike? Having a
Not too
good day
much.
today.
Yeah, crazy day probably for both of us, but you just had a hailstorm, and we were going to talk about your banana circle today. So let's bring up that
Yeah, we
video and
did.
take a look.
And I'll say that the hailstorm happened moments before this video was filmed, but everything still looks pretty good. Can you see that?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, so this is the banana circle, and I'll walk around it, but as you can see, it's extremely densely planted. And I mean, there are five banana main banana plants that were planted in here, along with the papayas and then several species of cut grasses. You can see here, we just cut down a plantain because we didn't really want it to fruit yet. It wasn't mature enough, but it was starting to put out a flower.
Okay.
And that really highlights the key of this banana circle. You can see all the debris on the ground. All the plants here, other than the bananas and these two in pots right here, are really just meant to be cut and then put back into the ground. These papayas, their leaves are constantly breaking off and going into the soil. You can see the yellow ones there. I need to cut those off, but honestly, the birds have been breaking them off for me. So they love hanging out in here. Um, and what we did was excavated the ground down about 2 feet in the center of this circle and then planted these five banana, just 1 gallon banana pups uh, around the edges of this circle that we made. And then we loaded it full of biomass. We put down leaves and wood chips and peat moss and everything we had. Um, and so you can see here the soil here is very dark. It holds tons of moisture. We did just have rain, so it's very wet, but it pretty much stays this way. I try to get a close up of some of the critters crawling along in there. Um, but that's really the key to this. The bananas love to eat, and this decomposing material in the middle of this circle here, and I will say it's not a full circle, it's a half circle. I've been called out on that.
Okay.
But all that material just feeds these plants. And you can see here, I have some bananas that I've planted out further away from the circle. And I mean, I give them the same amount of attention as I do the rest of them, and they just aren't growing as quickly, but they will. That nutrients will make its way over there. You can see this rack of dwarf Oronacos.
Hmm.
And then in the back here, I got a rack of dwarf Namwas. And so
Wow.
this circle that we're seeing here in this video was planted in March of 2024. And now it's the summer of 2025. So they're a little over a year old. Um, Another one of the plantains is flowering. And so, it's been a very productive system. That was one of the first things that was planted on the property here. Um, and it's really served as a, a, a nutrient biohouse or a powerhouse for the rest of the system. And so I'm able to harvest some of the soil from in the middle of those bananas and then use it as top dressing or to make compost teas to then apply to the rest of the yard. And you can see this is our one of our newer gardens. We just started this, the whole bed in front of the banana circle was really just started in November of last year. So
Hmm.
less than a year here. Um, and the fertility of the banana circle has just allowed us to expand that. And you can see a little bit of our soil. This has already kind of been amended. Um, but it is just your typical Florida sand.
Hmm.
This is an area off to the side here that I'm prepping for a new bed, But again, it's right around this banana circle, and so it's gonna utilize the nutrients and the microbial activity and the fungal populations that are going on inside there. I think banana circles are a really easy system for most places to start with. Um, Bananas and papayas are pretty universal food. I think most people are going to enjoy that. And you can use those to kind of start to uh, help the growth of your more tender plants. Like some of my fruit trees, I'm growing avocados and some citrus, which, struggle more in the urban kind of desolate environment. But through the banana circle, I'm able to create healthy soils here on the property. I don't have to go buy compost to amend them. And then the other benefit on my property, there was no mature trees, so there's no shade anywhere. So any of the plants that I like that need some shade, I was really just unable to grow them. And now that the banana circle has grown and picked up some size, you can see in the bottom left corner of this picture that there's a pineapple guava, and that's a
Mm,
species that really loves the shade. And I've had that plant for probably 6 years
wow.
in a pot and never really had a good place for it. And so now I've set that pot inside this little, shady oasis that constantly has litter dropping into the pot. When it rains, the moisture from the canopy slowly falls down onto it, and it's looking so much better than it ever has. Um, and it's just a fun plant. But when you can create an ecosystem that wasn't there before and allow plants to thrive that couldn't before, what you've done has been done, then it's a powerful feeling for sure. Uh,
Okay, got a
so
couple questions here.
yeah, what you got?
So this is a
First
half
one, when are we gonna
circle.
plant one in your yard?
I mean, I do have two bananas and a papaya around a compost bin. So in a way, it's like I'm halfway there.
I mean,
Um,
essentially, that's kind of the same thing. The main
yeah.
reason I depressed this is because of how dry my yard is. And I wanted all the water from the property to run into the center of these bananas.
So that is the low point of your yard.
Yeah, and that is why I selected this place.
Okay.
It is the lowest point in my yard, is where the water runs into the neighbors' yards. And
Okay.
so we built up that berm around the area we excavated, and that kind of acts as a swale. Not a swale, but it catches that water and then stops it and allows mostly slows it down and allows it to soak back into the ground instead of just running off.
Okay. You get many pests in there?
Not really. I mean,
Okay.
I would say our situation's definitely blessed because of how urban we are, and we have a strong population of feral cats around
Hmm.
that we really don't have much. I direct compost food scraps like produce into here, um, but I don't, you know, for things that are more likely to attract pests. I will either bokashi compost them or hot compost them. But I mean, as far as bugs, there are definitely lots of bugs.
Okay.
There's flies flying around.
Sure. Which is all good
There's
things, you know?
bats, and yeah, and honestly, since the bananas have been there, the wasp population has kind of exploded because they love the banana flowers. It's like they were made for them, and I think the papayas too. But I don't really consider the insects pests. They don't, with systems like this, when you're planting really diverse and really dense, there's going to be things eating things. One of the problems, and it's not really a problem, but one of the challenges I'm facing right now is that I've got weevils getting into my papayas and eating them before they ripen.
Hmm.
And for the type of education that I try to put out to people, what what is happening there is that the papaya plant is just not healthy enough yet. It doesn't have an established enough connection in the ground to the soil microbes to be able to defend itself from these pests. Because naturally, the papaya is going to have compounds in its leaves, in the skins of the fruit that can deter those things from trying to eat into them. But if the plant isn't uh, super healthy, which these are very young, and that's what I'm chalking this up to. These papayas are maybe 6 months old, and they've grown very quickly, and they're trying to fruit, but a lot of times those first fruits aren't the healthiest ones. So what I'll probably do here is take a lot of these small ones off and then allow it to just put most of its energy into a couple of fruits. Because if you look here, there's probably 15 to 20 papayas on
Yeah.
this tree, and it's no more than 5 feet tall. And when you think of the energy resources it takes to develop that many fruits, and every papaya has hundreds of seeds in it. Each one of those seeds takes a lot of resources from the plant and from the soil. And so, until you get, you know, really healthy systems, you may need to do some management to ensure healthy fruit production. But in the case of these papayas, I mostly use them for their leaves.
Hmm.
Um, I will say that these papayas were planted here specifically for chop and drop because they're not really a good papaya. They're fine. They're a papaya. They're edible, but it's a seed grown from a grocery store papaya. So it's a mixed bag on what they're going to taste like, and so you know I'm not as worried about pests, and the plants that are in this system are things that I don't really have to worry about. For areas further away from the garden, I, may take different pest management strategies. Um, Mostly just observation and removal of anything that, is too damaging. Um, Water is a great way to remove things. And even, the next step above that would be water with some plant-based soap mixed in, like tablespoon to a gallon. And then any insects that are able to come back onto the plant would then be, eradicated by that soap gums up their organs. Essentially, most insects will breathe through their skin. So
Okay.
if you can stop that, that causes some problems.
So I'm curious now, you've got a second area that you're prepping for. Is this a secondary compost circle that you're going to be putting in?
No, the new area is a straight production bed. It's
Okay.
going to be one of our annual beds that we cycle through the seasons. Currently, it's going to be planted out with uh, roselle and sweet potatoes for the summer. Um, but what happens, once I've removed the grass from the area, but that soil is still pretty typical for your standard yard. And so what I'll do is I'll harvest a bit of the material from the bottom of this banana circle, and then I'll just give a light top dress to that soil, and then I'll cover it up with the leaves, the other chop and drop species that I have in the yard to keep the moisture in there. And that'll essentially act as a microbial inoculant. And all the microbes that are in this banana circle right now are going to, through my manual effort, going to be transferred over to this area on the side. And so you can kind of think of the banana pit in my situation as a microbial nursery. I'm using this as the healthiest part of my yard to breed the healthiest microbes that are already pretty well adapted to my conditions in the rest of the yard if they can live here. And then I can, move them around as I repair some of the other areas. And by repair, I mean remove the lawn.
Yeah. I want to do something, Sam. My circle, I have two bananas, a papaya, and I've had those bananas for over a year now, and they're not doing that great. Um, they've weathered a couple storms, so these are really the pups that have survived. But what I'd like to do is the next episode we come back with my banana circle and we can kind of go through it, and somebody who's watching this one can immediately follow up, watch this next one, and see like a beginner circle, what I can do to improve it. And based on these two episodes, I think we'll give them a lot of information on how they can start a banana circle. And maybe in that next episode, because I know you've built some crazy banana circles as well, maybe we can even use some of that footage. And I think that would
Yeah,
be
absolutely.
highly
I think that would
beneficial.
be a great place to start because mine is pretty established. And, it can be hard to think of where to start from here. But, yours is definitely what most people have when they,
Yeah.
see bananas in their yard. They're not planting them out into systems like this. Um, I'm trying to pull up a photo of when I just planted it, but I might not have one on me. But yeah, I think that'd be great. And then we can talk a little bit about, you know, what you can do in your system. And, those kind of things can be really applied to any yard. And really, what we're going to talk about, I already know, we're going to find some way maybe to capture some more water. And then, you know, you, your compost is really great. Having your bananas planted around the compost pile is definitely the way to go. But if they're not, growing vigorously, that most likely means your compost just isn't that stimulated. There's not much nutrients in it. Um, and so, incorporating some bokashi, which is already inoculated with a lot of microbes into your compost, could really help that. Um, but yeah, we can look at that. I did just find a more or a picture from I think this winter before things really started
Okay.
exploding.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
yeah, this was like November of last year. Um, and you can see the tall grasses behind the banana here. Those are
Hmm.
Napier grasses, and that's a big powerhouse for my situation. They grow very quickly. I can cut them a couple times a month, even, and then they'll get back up to this same height, and then that goes back into here. Another thing you can see in this picture is that I grow a lot of annuals around my bananas. There's cowpeas all through here. Um, over right here, this is sun hemp, which is another legume. It's a nitrogen fixer, just like the cowpeas. Um, and then I've grown squash, anything to keep the soil covered, but not intended to be harvested. That's
Hmm.
really the key. When the plant grows, so, these pea vines had gotten pretty big at this point. So what I did after that was I just cut them down and threw them into the middle of the pit. And that's a great way to fertilize the microbes around your plants. Fresh green material that's going to break down really quickly. Um, but yeah, real quick, I'll let you know what I have. So there's a dwarf Namwa that we saw the rack in the background on. In the front here are two dwarf Puerto Rican plantains. This
Okay.
is the one that recently got cut. And then this one's got a flower on it now. And then in the back, the one that we saw the large rack on is a dwarf Orinoco, which is a green cooking banana, which I'm really excited to make some tostones with. Hopefully, I think that'll be ripe in the next couple of weeks.
Okay.
And then there's a Mysore. And so the layout here was intentional. The Puerto Rican plantains are the tallest bananas in this group, and so they are on the north side of this planting. That means that they're not going to shade out any of the other bananas. The two dwarf smallest ones are on the east and west side of the pit, so that they're either getting all the morning sun or all the afternoon sun. And then the one right here in the middle in the back is a full size Mysore, which will grow much taller than the rest of the dwarfs. And then, be able to capture that sunlight, but only shade the center of the circle and not the plantains out on the side. Now, bananas do like some shade once they're established. And so in the video, you saw my moringa trees. And
Mm.
so I've grown moringa all around there. I think there's 3 trees in there now. And the papayas will do the same thing. They'll go over the bananas eventually once the bananas are established. And then they'll be able to shelter them a little bit from, the terrible sun in the middle of August.
Awesome. Great. Well, great episode. Haven't just, I mean, I've seen some of your videos and stuff, but no, I like the in-depth look and analysis. So, Sam,
Yeah, that's what we try to do here. We try to break it down.
yeah, for sure. And maybe we get people to send us videos of their properties and we could take a look at them. So,
Please do. We'd love to, put in our input, and we'll be nice. Don't worry. Everybody's doing a good job.
yeah,
It's just, where do you go from here? That's usually, what you got to figure out. What's the next step?
for sure. Great episode, Sam. Tell everybody where they can follow you at.
Absolutely. If you want a banana pit, or you want to see more of mine, you can follow me on Instagram or Facebook at Central Florida Abundance. And we have a new page launching for our farm called the Igo Family Farm, and we will have produce for sale on there. And so check us out, come by, come show us what you're growing.
Excellent. We'll catch you on the next episode. You can follow me at Mike's in the Garden on Instagram, YouTube, and I am on Facebook, unfortunately. And you can also check out Dro TV on Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. Facebook stole a bunch of money from me years ago. It's another story for another day. So,
I don't know.
if you want to support this show, you can check out some of these amazing shirts. Get yourself one. You want to be caught wearing some of these.